Hi guys, Steve Buzza here, back to scratch like vlog on gap testing. So I had a new set of clubs, so that is one reason why I needed to gap test. But if I'm honest, I hadn't gap tested for a long time. You know, maybe if I think back to the last time I gap tested, that would have probably been when I first went to Bangkok. You know, I haven't been in Bangkok for a while. I've had new clubs and I had new wedges. What was embarrassing when I went through this process is with my last set of wedges I completely changed the lofts and I didn't really have any idea how that had affected my distances. So I'm going to quickly go through and I'll put this up on the screen, but I've got a 58 in the bag at the minute. I did have a 60, but I always felt like it was like 100 yards, maybe a little further, and I was hitting at 114 yards. So that is, in terms of wedge play, that is the difference between hitting it close to a back pin and hitting it in a position where you can't even find the ball. The 54, I thought it was in maybe 120 max, but I'm thinking more 115, 125. So again, I'm already a club out and I haven't even got to the third club. The 50, I thought that it would be in and around 130, but if I am honest, I had no clue. The 50 was something I added. I never really established how far I ever hit it. So 141, I'm now 11 yards out on what I thought I did. Pitching wedge 154. Again, I was thinking 9-iron. You see there's a trend here. I'm a club out. 9-iron 165. I was going on the theory I hit an 8-iron that. Then the 7-iron, so 8-iron 175, 7-iron 190. I was going on my old yardage of 178. So a lot of these yardages are the reason why I felt so uncomfortable out on the course. It's so easy to blame technique and wedge play, and you see I'm getting steep, but I get steep when I don't turn and commit. So that's half the battle. You know, if I don't know how far I'm hitting the ball with a wedge, I then stall the body because I'm afraid of going long. Or what was happening, and I'll give you a great example, the first hole on our Bay Island course here is tough. And I smoked the drive and I've got about 120 in, I think, when usually like 150, 160 is a good drive. So a little bit of tailwind, but I've smoked it first shot of the day, pull out my gap wedge. I'm afraid of going long. So it's actually the right club. I can use that club. You know, on what I just did there, I could have probably used sand wedge, but I baby it, making sure I don't go long, plant it on the front of the green, and I 3-putt. But you're gonna 3-putt if you are at 50 feet. If you're going at a par 5 in 2, if we use that as an example, and you hit it to 50 feet, you've got to say, well, when I got 3 wood in my hand, I can't be too picky on how close I'm going to get it. That's not the case with wedge. So this is half the reason why I've been struggling so much on the course, and I would be imploring you to do the same. If you've got very confused with how far your clubs are going, I would put that as a priority. How do I do it? I just hit shots, and once I hit a shot that I feel is a representation of a good swing, I take that number. I'll hit a couple more to try and calibrate it, but that's how I do it, because my ball striking is pretty good. I should be able to replicate that. For an amateur golfer, and this might not apply for the shorter clubs, but certainly for the longer ones, rather than giving yourself a single yardage, I would give yourself a band. So let's say a 9-iron goes between 125 and 140. Reason why that is really important is you don't want to be hitting shots that are like pretty good but not your Sunday best, and then let's say a front pin you then plug in the bunker. You know, by having the band, you know where you can actually clear the front edge, or if it's a back pin, you know where your bands are. So it stops this, well, I'm in between clubs and I didn't know what to do. As soon as you've got that band, it actually will give you clarity on what club to use. I've got a launch monitor, so I was very fortunate. Using a launch monitor is the best way to do it. You know, and it's quite warm here, so I'm lucky I'm using a radar device. So the actual weather is calculated into that because it's looking exactly what the ball is doing. If you don't have access to a launch monitor, this is the best time to do your yardages, because when you're hitting shots, you're likely to see where the pitch mark is. So even when you go out on your course, and let's say you're on a par 3, and it's 155 yards, you hit 9-iron, it goes on the green, and you go, fantastic, I hit 9-iron 155 yards. But if that ball is pitched on the front and the 55 was for a middle pin, you haven't hit it 155. So you need to find out where that pitch mark is and actually step forwards. A lot of tour players or their caddies, that's what they all do. So the caddy will make a note of how far their shots have gone. And you'll, I think it was in the PGA Tour event last week, Boo, is he called? That's insulting, I didn't mean to. But he was talking to his caddy on about 16 in the final round, trying to win a PGA Tour event. Congratulations, Ian Poulter, by the way. But he was speaking to his caddy, and his caddy said, well, in the practice round, you hit a wedge in this direction with this wind, and it did this. So you see, they're actually making a note of what they're doing week by week, and that can give them clarity. We don't need to go in depth as much as that. I sometimes find if you try and take too many notes, when you're on your own, it like blows your head off. You know, you get all of these numbers in your head, and it can actually lose clarity because you then can't make out what to do. So that's why a PGA Tour caddy is so important to those players. But when you're out practicing, like if you're out on your own, just drop one on the 150 marker, hit a shot, see where it lands. On the next hole, find the 150, drop back. And then make a note so you've then got an idea of what you do. And then when you play the next few rounds, just see do they match up. And you'll find that's a way of actually building your yardages without necessarily having to have, you know, the equipment that you might deem that you actually need. So that's your excuse gone. So if you're the person who says, well, I can't do them, there's your solution. And yeah, I hope this video has helped. You know, I was shocked, and I should be a little embarrassed, especially with the wedges, because I hadn't gone to the effort once changing my wedge setup. I added the wedge, didn't make the effort to work out what that was doing. So the extra wedge was there to help me out, and it's quite frankly probably the last 12 months been hindering me because it means I can't make a decision. So for me now, that's a massive one, and I'm hoping it will make some big differences, not only to my scores, but more importantly how I can feel like I can commit to my irons. Because I'm missing loads of greens, and it's not a technical problem. You know, I can hit irons here, you know, I'm hitting them nice, I'm really happy with what I'm doing. You know, it's a commitment issue because, like I say, quite frankly, it's hard to commit to something if you don't know what you're trying to do. So this clarity should help me big time, and I think it can also help you, especially if you're somebody that really likes to think about their game. So I hope this helps. Get some comments down below. Are you somebody that has a different way of working out the yardages, maybe using Game Golf and another piece of technology, or do you have a more inventive way? I'd love to hear what you got to say. Hope to catch you soon.